Hello everyone and welcome to the Spinning Barn and to this month's inspirational spin. It's the 1st of April today and I promise you no tricks. I don't like tricks, so no tricks, this is all for real, okay? Now then, do you know what, I'm feeling a little bit barefaced today. I'm treating myself to a facial this evening, so I'm having a clean face day. You might not recognise me next time you see me. Here's hoping, eh? Anyway, let's get to our spinning idea for this month. Now then, I would like to talk this time about cable yarns. And here's one I prepared earlier. Now, so a cable yarn is basically a 4-ply yarn. The purpose of it is, or it's the beauty of it, is that being 4 plies, it gives a really resilient yarn, fantastic for socks. It also gives a very rounded finish as well, which gives really good stitch definition. So all in all, it's a really, really fabulous yarn. If I just show you, if I can get this up a bit closer, look. Can you see how really rounded that looks? It's a fabulous yarn to work with. The only downside to it is obviously that it takes time to actually create. So you need to allow plenty of time to prepare this. Not so much so if you're doing a pair of socks, because that doesn't take a massive amount of yarn, does it? But how this is prepared is with 4 single yarns. So effectively, you need to divide up your fibre supply into 4 equal parts. You will spin each of those singles. And obviously, if you use a nice fine yarn, now I've used here, this is a merino and silk blend here, and you can see it's really squishy, it's rather lovely. But both of those fibres like to be spun finely. So your resulting 4-ply isn't going to be really bulky, but it adds extra strength and durability to those particular fibres. So a really good choice. So as I'm saying, you will spin 4 equal singles, all of the same thickness, all of the same length, obviously, or as near as you can. And then you will ply 2 of those together. So you have 2 sets of plied 2-ply yarns. You will then ply those 2 together to make your finished yarn. Now, I've got some little videos to follow here that are going to show how I'm actually creating those. But, and again, I think I explain this later in the videos, but just so that you're aware, there are 2 ways of doing this, really. You can either spin your singles clockwise or anti-clockwise, but always remember what you've done. We get into such a habit, don't we, of only spinning in one direction normally, that it's very easy to go back to that if you go, you know, nip off for a cup of coffee somewhere or you're spinning again another day. So do keep a note of what you're actually doing, okay? And the reason that you can do it either way, I think, is dependent on the project that you've got in mind and also how you're going to create that and your knitting or crochet style. So I have spun mine with my singles spun Z, my plies spun S, and my cable spun Z. And that works for the way that I knit, but there are so many different knitting styles that sometimes you might find, depending on how you put your wool around your needle or how you pick up your yarn, it can possibly slightly untwist. So do be aware of that. And as always, do a little sample to start with, because this is a lot of yarn, a lot of spinning to be committing to if you're not quite sure of how it's actually going to turn out. So my golden rule, isn't it? But you'll see later, I didn't do that. We always learn by our mistakes, don't we? And, you know, I kept notes and I wanted to keep this very real and I wanted to just do it as an experiment. And I have to say, excuse me, I'm actually really pleased with it. So over to you. It's your turn to have a go at this. Just watch the little videos that are coming up next that just show you how I've actually created these. And I will talk you through some other little bits to think about as you're actually doing those, okay? And then at the end, I will talk you through exactly what my resulting yarn looked like and felt like. Okay, right, Over to you. See you a bit later. Bye for now. So as we've already discussed, the cable yarn is made up of 4 single strands. Now, the direction in which you spin those is a personal choice, actually, depending on the way that you like to knit. And that might take a bit of experimenting, really, to work out the effect that your knitting style can have on your finished yarn. So depending on how you actually wrap your yarn around your needle, that can actually make your yarns come apart. So you almost undo that last ply. So it does take a bit of experimenting, but I'm going to carry on because I don't do much knitting anyway, really, do I? I'm going to carry on and I'm going to do these in the direction that I would normally ply, or spin and ply. So I have spun my singles in a clockwise Z direction. So I have 4 bobbins of single strands. Now I'm taking 2 and just plying a normal 2-ply yarn. And then I will do exactly the same with the remaining 2 bobbins of yarn. So I will have 2 full bobbins of 2-plied yarn, plied in an S direction. I will then ply those 2 together in an S direction, sorry, the Z direction, so that we have effectively 4 strands plied together, 2 sets of 2 plied together in the opposite direction. Now, because we're going to be plying them together, so effectively plying a second time, what we need to consider is that we will actually be removing a little bit of twist, which is what happens as we ply. So it's really important at this stage that we consider how much twist we're actually putting into our yarn. When we spin, you would just put in your normal amount of sufficient twist for that particular fibre that you're working with. However, when we come to ply, I'm probably losing my rhythm here a little bit actually because I'm talking to you at the same time, we want to have a little bit more than we would normally have. We want it to be slightly over twisted, but just with an extra twist. Because when we ply them again, a little bit of that will be removed to make it balanced. So let's have a little look at the amount of twist that I'm actually putting in here. Now, don't forget always to, I'm sure you know that when you take your plyback sample, if you take it from the bobbin, because once it's reached the bobbin, it's finished its little journey. But when it's still here, still travelling, it's still twisting. It's not that realistic, in my opinion. So if we just take a little plyback sample, and I can see, I don't know if you can see there, it's just got, I mean, it looks okay in that. That looks like how it's going to look. I rather like that, actually. But we have got little extra twists going on here that normally I would not be happy with. But for this particular exercise, I think that's okay because, as I say, that little bit, when we twist it again, is probably going to come out. So I'm going to go, yeah, see, it's making me feel nervous that it's got more twists than I would normally want. However, I think I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to carry on and finish that. And we will come back and have a look at plying the two-ply yarns together. Okay, so you can do yours if you're doing it along with me, and you can catch up in a bit. See you in a minute. Okay, so now we have our 2 bobbins of 2-ply yarn, which we now need to ply together in the opposite direction from which you plied those. So if you plied those in a S direction, you'll be plying again now in a Z direction, and vice versa. Okay, so I hope you kept notes along the way. Okay, so let me have a little look. I've made a start here. Let me just get my rhythm back. So I'm going to be applying in an Z direction. And I have to say that playing these two together, it's a lovely feeling. You can really feel the texture and almost the pattern of the yarn that's being created between your fingers. It's lovely. It's a really nice feeling, actually. It feels, it's very smooth, but very firm. Almost like it's got little tiny, not bobbles, but you can feel the twist there. It's a really nice feeling, actually. So let's have a little look how the yarn itself is looking. So again, let's do another little ply back here. Now, oops, don't forget, as we said earlier, let's take it from here. Okay, let me see, where's the camera? Now I've got a bit of a dilemma actually, because it's looking, I think it's looking a little tight. Now you can see how much I've already got on the bobbin. I've already experimented with more twist and with less twist. And what I have found is, whether it's the blend of fibres that I'm using, because I've got, this is a silk, sorry, merino and silk. And I'm finding that the fibres themselves need that little extra twist. When I was plying with less twist, it looked a little bit too soft. So what I'm going to hope is that I'm going to carry on as I'm doing now, and then leave the bobbin to relax somewhat overnight. And then obviously I shall wash it and set it. And again, that may help some of the slightly extra amount of twist to dissipate a little. So I'm hoping it'll all relax at the end. So again, don't forget, these are my rules, aren't they? When I always teach anybody to spin, do a little experiment along the way. So ideally, I should have made a much smaller skein of this just to experiment and show you. But, you know, this is the reality of it. This is, you know, this is actually happening here and now. And these are the decisions that we have to make, aren't they? So I'm going to carry on with that. And if you carry on with yours too. And as you can see, oops, it's gone the wrong way. And as you can see, Teddy's laying down here next to the fire because it's a really cold, windy day today. In fact, snow this morning, can you believe it? Just get back in the rhythm. Keep that rhythm nice and smooth. And watch this gorgeous yarn. It's being created right in front of you. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, I'll be back to you with my finished yarn. So here we are back again, and I have finished my yarn. It is just about dry actually. And you can see, actually, you can see Bobby's asleep on the chair now, I'm afraid. He's been barking throughout this, hasn't he? I do apologise, and he's off again. I think it's actually the windy weather. He can hear. He's not very, his hearing's a bit poor at the moment, and I think he can hear things happening, and it's getting a little bit confused. I do apologise, but it's too cold to put them outside. Anyway, here is my finished yarn. Now then, do you remember I was talking about the amount of twist that I needed to put into this yarn to actually make it balanced when I came to do the final ply for the cable effect? Now, can you see here? I have actually still got a bit of twist in here, which I'm not happy about. However, I can explain why that actually is. If I actually just turn this camera down so you can actually just see this on the table for a second. Hello, Bobby. Hello. When I was actually experimenting with the amount of twist that I needed in my original ply, I actually put in, and you can you see here in this section, this is the part where, oh, that's lovely, look at that. This is the part where I actually put in an extra twist just to see what the effect would be. So I was sort of deciding as I went along, and you can really see that that little bit there is just over twisted. So that had 6 twists per inch in there. And this section over here had 5, and you can really see the difference, can't you? So unfortunately that bit hasn't come out, but you know, it's a good example of what actually has happened and why we need to do those little experiments. Let me come back up so I'll talk to you. You know, that's why we need to do those tests to start with, isn't it? But it does show you really well the difference here. So you see, had I spun all of this at what I thought was right, the 6-to-1, I would have spoiled all of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, and that little bit would, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about too much about that. But overall, I'm really pleased. I really like, go back down again. I really like how rounded it looks and how secure it feels. Can you, if I come a bit closer? Where are we? Back there? Can you see it? You can see the cable effect in that, but it is very rounded, and I can see how that is actually going to give much more resilience to these particular fibres, the merino and the silk, with them both being fairly delicate but strong in their own right. So overall, I'm really pleased with that, and I am really looking forward to seeing your cable yarns. This is quite a big. I actually used 200 grams here, so that was quite a task to do, but I really needed to do that over a good length just to really see those results. You know, if you want to practice just doing a small section, you know, a small amount of yarn, that's fine. Make a smaller skein. That will be fine. That's lovely. So I'm gonna have to think of a project for that now, aren't I? But again, looking forward to seeing yours. I'm always here for any help. If you need any help, any advice, and you just want to show me what you've made, then you know where to find me. Okay, so until next month, unless I hear from you in between time, enjoy your spinning, enjoy the month of April. Okay, we've got a few April showers coming along even today, I can see now. But enjoy your time. Call me if you need anything. Okay, bye for now.